right, welcome everybody. Been a little while since we've been here on Go Cloud Careers, so let's get it rolling. Mike, what's going on?
Welcome everyone. Today we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics, mastering the cloud architect interview or the solutions architect interview or the AWS solutions architect interview. And here's the thing, if you have the right interview preparation, you can get any job that actually brings you in for an interview. I've never been on an interview where I didn't get hired. And in most cases, meaning 2 out of 5, so not most cases, 40% of the time, I got a better job offer than the one I applied for and at a higher salary. And all of you can do it too. All of you can win that solution architect interview with the right solution architect interview presentation. So today we're going to talk about solution architect interview tips, and that will work on the solution architect technical interview, the cloud architect technical interview, or any interview throughout your career. We're going to have Chris and Alonzo talk about the interview, and then I will give you some of the tips in the end that will get you to your goal. The right interview has a profound impact on how desirable you are to the employer. The right interview has a massive impact in your actual salary. And when you're new and starting out with lack of experience, the right interview is critical. And when you have more experience, the right interview will earn you more. So no matter what, let's talk about interviews. And because I love interviewing and winning interviewing and getting people hired, give me a hashtag cloud architect interview or solution architect interview. Today, one of my students called me this morning and they said they got hired. 2 more of them right now said they were in the last stages of their interview. And even in a down economy, you can still get hired with the right cloud architect interview or solution architect interview. So give me a hashtag cloud architect interview. And then we're going to begin. Chris has some great feedback for you from the HR perspective. Alonzo's got some executive marketing background for you. He's a great cloud architect, but he also is a marketing executive. And what is an interview? It's a sales call. And your resume is the marketing, and the better you market yourself, the better you sell yourself on the interview, the more you will earn. So I don't want to keep babbling. Chris is going to give you some free things that we're going to be doing soon to help you in your career. Then we'll get into the discussion. So stick around. We're going to cover a lot of important things.
All right, so first of all, I'm glad to be back, everybody. Sorry if my lighting is a little bit off. I actually moved offices, so I'm in a little bit darker spot now, so I got to figure out my lighting. So first of all, let me tell everybody we've got an exciting opportunity coming up at the end of this month. So we have I'm probably going to get the name wrong here, the AWS Advanced Networking Specialty Plus, what you need to know, Bootcamp. And that is something that we've been working on for a little bit now. It's developed by 2 CCIEs and a CCNP. And so if you're looking for some true networking knowledge, not just the stuff on AWS, but the AWS stuff and the I guess you would call it the fundamentals of networking, make sure to sign up for that completely free boot camp for you. Again, led by 3 networking experts that we are excited to bring that to you for. So make sure to register for that. The link is in the description. The link is in the chat box. The link is in the comments, whatever platform you're on, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, it's there. I promise. If it's not there right now, it'll be there in a few minutes. But the next thing that I want to do is I want to make sure that everyone is aware of our How to Get Your First Cloud Architect Job webinar that we will be doing this Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern. If you're interested in the cloud architect role, solutions architect role, any kind of architect role, come to that webinar. It's completely free. We're going to talk about how to get your first cloud architect job, the trials, tribulations, the hurdles, the obstacles, the perceived obstacles, versus the real obstacles, what hiring managers want, what they don't want, what they're actually looking for, what the architect actually does, all that good stuff. And then we're going to take your questions for an hour, hour and a half, whatever it might be. And so that will be this Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern. And if you can't wait until Thursday, get our free guide that is based off of all the same information, completely free, PDF format for you. Nice, pretty pictures, great diagrams, nice layout, wonderful work by our amazing marketing team. team, Alonzo over there, Mike, and me putting together this content for you. And so that's completely free. You can get that and come to the webinar. Let's do that both. So get those resources, come to the webinar, sign up for the boot camp. A lot to go on. So before we get into let's get into the topic today. I want to say a few words. Normally we let Mike go straight into it, but I want to say a few words first, because I've got the background from both HR and from the actual hiring manager's perspective. I've done both. I've been both. I've been the one actually trying to fill positions that will be working with me, and I've been the one in HR trying to fill positions for people that I don't even know anything about. So I wanted to give a little insight, and then I'm going to ask Alonzo to share some insights or some thoughts, initial thoughts about interviewing, and then we'll give it to Mike and let Mike get up on his soapbox. Got him a nice cushy seat up there on the soapbox because I got a feeling he's going to be there for a little bit. But one thing I want to make really clear, and we're talking about interviewing. So at this point, we're assuming you've already got the resume down pat. You've already gotten to the recruiter. You've got through the applicant tracking system. You're in the interview. Guess what? You've made it through the most difficult part. You are now seriously being considered for a role. They know what your experience is. They know what your lack of experience is. They know what you've done and what you haven't done. They know what you can bring to the table, presumably, and what you're not able to bring because it's not on your resume. They know what you can't bring to them. And yet they're still interviewing you. So I wanted to just set that framework because by the way, I made Mike and Alonzo do some homework before this and put some notes together and get all their talking points together. I didn't. I just came ready to go ready to shoot from the hip. So, but that's because I want to hear from them more than anything. But I wanted to lay that framework because when I was looking through their notes, basically all the notes were from the perspective of, well, here's how you don't lose this opportunity that you've already gotten. Like, you're here, you've gotten to this opportunity. So I just wanted to lay that out there. So, you hear us talk about, the euphemisms that people will use if they're not going to hire a candidate. I actually, in my work environment, I work in a co-working environment. So there's literally 200 offices on 2 floors that, you got real estate agents, you got law firms, you got accountants, you got recruiters, you got health care people, you got me, you got all kinds of people here. But I was here the other day and I was listening to 2 recruiters talk. And it upset me so much that I sent Mike and Alonzo a message. I was listening to them talk about why someone was not selected for a position. There was a specific reason. And the specific reason was a valid reason from a hiring manager's perspective. The reason was for the last 4 people that had that specific previous experience that this current candidate had failed. So from the hiring manager's perspective, it's like, okay, 4 times in a row, somebody that's come to me with that same thing. I'm not gonna try it again. I'm gonna go with someone else. They were talking about how they were not going to tell the candidate that, and that they were going to tell the candidate a specific other reason, not the euphemism of you don't have enough experience or anything, but something completely different. So take it with a grain of salt what you hear when you get feedback from people in the interview process. The interview process, the hiring managers and everybody have been coached to make it easy for the candidate. Don't hurt their feelings. Don't upset them. Don't do anything. Let them down easy. Most often, 99% of the time, you're going to get you don't have the experience that we need. But guess what? You got to the interview.
Yep.
Got the experience. You've got if you don't have the experience, they don't care. Because they're interviewing you. So anyway, I wanted to lay that groundwork. You've gotten to this in our scenario today. You've gotten to the interview. Let's win it. And let's see what Alonzo's got to say to kick it off. And
right before we get to Alonzo,
order to, not on his soapbox yet.
right before we get to Alonzo, I was trained initially how not to provide honest feedback to the employee. And, after Chris messaged me, I reached out to about a half a dozen recruiters that I know. And companies are being coached to either ghost the person or not provide honest feedback. And they don't provide honest feedback. So let's say you wanted to hire a solution architect and the last 4 people were painters. And the 5th person that comes in is a painter. If you say, I can't hire you because you're a painter and you lack experience, it opens them up to liability and discrimination. Maybe they don't like painters. So companies are being forced not to provide honest feedback to the candidate. But I want to highlight what Chris said. If they're willing to interview you, they are willing to hire you. It costs several $100s per person to employ, to several $100s to interview a candidate.
Yep.
By the time you factor in the cost. So companies will not waste their time, effort, or money on interviewing you unless they're willing to hire you. But if they don't like you, they'll make up an excuse. And sometimes you're lucky enough to get the nice one, come back when you have more experience, and other times it is a phony excuse. Over to you, Alonzo.
But one quick, before Alonzo goes, I want to say the reason I wanted to say take it with a grain of salt if you ever get something. If they give you a specific reason, it may not actually be the specific reason. And so I don't want you going and trying to fix. And that's what upset me about the scenario last week that I heard, is that I knew that this candidate was going to be told this specific other thing that was not the actual reason. And they're going to go fix that. They're going to go try and fix this thing that was not actually the reason. Now, if they had just been told you don't have enough experience, I wouldn't have been upset. Because everybody gets told they don't have enough experience. I don't have enough experience. Mike doesn't have enough experience half the time. Alonzo's not got enough experience. But anyway, I just wanted to say that's why I was saying take it with a grain of salt when you hear that. If you do get someone that actually gives you a specific reason, drill them about it. Ask them about it. And you'll figure out if it's real or not. So, Alonzo, what's your opening statements about interviews?
Well, gentlemen, you guys made some really, really clear and solid information. So where do people end up when you know you're not going to get honest feedback, if you get it at all? So it lands right back on you, your preparation, how you're going to go into that scenario, preparation before you even open up that discussion for that hiring scenario or the opportunity to do so. So you really need to put together a checklist to understand what your competency is. How are you going to deliver that value? How are you going to present yourself visually, verbally? How are you going to communicate what you know and how you can draw them in to share this type of knowledge? Or even beforehand, do you have an idea of who you're interviewing with? What are their likes? What are their dislikes? You'll have that opportunity to provide or get all the information you need to be successful. Follow a certain protocol that we list, and you'll be able to be successful as well. So I'm really looking forward to getting into these details about how everyone can get a confirmation on what this organization already knows about this value that you present.
Good. You know what, guys? I completely forgot. Tyrone, there's an interview guide that we have. Can you put the interview guide in the comments? I don't know how I forgot that we've got an interview guide, but if you're interested in how to win the interview, get the free interview guide that I completely forgot about while I was announcing all the other stuff this morning. Get that free guide. It's completely free based off of everything that we're talking about here, based off of our experience. But before I brought Mike back on, I wanted to put that out there because I just completely forgot about the interview guide. Leave it to me to forget about the resource that's directly tied to what we're talking about today. All right, Mike.
You catching that from me, the forgetfulness?
Absolutely.
There you go.
It just runs around. So, Mike, what do you have to say about interviews? I know you got a lot.
Admittedly, I have a lot, and I love coaching people on interviews. So, there's all these people out there that just want to learn the cloud architect interview questions or the solutions architect interview questions, and they master them, and they still don't get hired. So let's talk about what goes into the interview. I'm going to talk about what hiring managers desire, and then we're going to talk about how you can answer questions in a manner that is going to show why they need to hire you. So here's what it really comes down to when it comes to hiring. You need to be able to do the job, and they have to want you. So let's talk about those two things. If you're great, but they don't like you and don't want you, they're not going to hire you anyway. And as we go out of hands-on techie roles where you're hidden in the basement where no one can see you, and they bring you in cookies and pizzas, and there are a few of those roles that are out there. I used to have some people that we didn't let out to talk to people, but those roles have diminished over the years. They have to know that they like you. They have to want you on their team. They have to think you can add to the team, and you have to be good. And guess what? Here's the biggest tech interview secret in the world. If you are new in tech, that is your ace in the hole, because 50% of what hiring managers want is your ability to do the job. And that other 50% is that special stuff. And if you master that special stuff, you end up better off than someone that's better, more skilled, and more experienced that doesn't have all that other special stuff. So what are employers looking for? And then we'll talk about the interview itself and how to show it. They are looking for, first, can you do the job? Now, if I'm hiring an architect, I don't care if you're a lawyer. I don't care if you're a physician. I don't care if you're a DevOps engineer. I don't care if you're a programmer. I don't care if you're a cloud admin. I don't care if you're a cloud engineer. I care, are you a cloud architect or are you a solutions architect? And if you're not, I have no interest in you because I'm hiring for this position. Keep that in the back of your mind. It's how good you are at your job versus everybody else's job. And most people learn everybody else's job and fail to learn theirs and master theirs. And that crushes them. So first, the ability to do the job. The next one, can you communicate well? We'll give you some examples of this today. If you can't communicate, you will make errors. You will cause conflict on the team. And again, it's a disaster. We see errors every day. We saw Facebook and Instagram down today. We don't know the cause of that yet, but kind of keep that in the back of your mind. The last time Facebook was down was a BGP error. I don't even want to know what that cost. The next thing employers want to know is, can they trust you? If they can't trust you, they can't hire you. I can go away for 3 months and know that Chris and Alonzo will make sure that every one of my students' best interests is taken care of. I know they will. Will I go away for 6 months? No. But if something happened and I had to, I know full well that Chris and Alonzo care so much about our students, they'd be taken care of, which means I could sleep at night. And I can trust them both. Believe me, I know we can. And, we go past that. What do employers care about? They don't want someone that's sleepy. Like, I'm too tired to work. Wake me up when it's time to work. They're looking for energetic, enthusiastic, and passionate people. I want you to think about it. If you wanted work done in your house, would you hire the sleepy, lazy person? No, you wouldn't. And would you hire someone that hates their job and is so miserable they're going to have to come to work drunk or worse, using drugs just to get through the day, making more errors? And if someone doesn't like the job, are they going to learn and research on their own time to get better? Of course they won't. So we're looking for energy, enthusiasm, and passion. The next thing we care about is the team. It's all about the team. There's no one man or one woman in wrecking crews that can do it all. And anybody that thinks they can, they're lying to themselves. It's all about the team. So employers need to know you've got the emotional intelligence to bring out the best in others. Now, what do they really, really care about? Are you a team player? Again, goes back to that same issue. And are you willing to go above and beyond? So I want you to think about it. 50% of your score goes to competency. So how do you prove it? Well, we're going to ask you questions on the interview. And if you can answer them articulately and show knowledge, then you can show them why they should hire you. If when you speak, what they hear is blah, 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 which is usually what we hiring managers speak, and we can't follow what you're saying to us, we don't think you're competent. Now, I'll tell you, I've met some incredibly capable, super smart people that have a lot of skill. And when you ask them to explain it, what they hear is blah, 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 blah. And we hiring managers, who, because we don't know the person, say, all right, incompetent, interview's over. So I recommend that you practice explaining technology. Make it very clear that you understand it. Be able to explain the technology in this format. What is the technology? How does the technology work? And why we should use it. For example, I'll show you the good answer, and I'll show you the answer that ends the interview. If I ask someone, what is block storage? And they said, it's EBS. And I said, so tell me about block storage. Oh, it's EBS. You mount it to a hard drive. I'd say, thank you very much. Come back when you have more experience. Because they didn't show me competency. Now, if someone said to me, Mike, block storage is a type of storage area network, meaning that it's accessed over a network. Meaning all you need is network connectivity. Now, understand, because it's connected over the network's performance will determine your speed to the block storage. And then they said, block storage as a storage area network, the way it works is data comes in, and they write your data in terms of a block. And that block is written to the object storage hard drives, very similar to the manner that it's written to a block in a local server. And because that block storage is accessed over a network and written in a similar format to a traditional hard drive, a server can mount a block storage, which is a network drive, and it will feel like a local hard drive. In effect, it's a virtualized hard drive that can be used by servers. Organizations use block storage because it decouples or separates the server environment from the storage environment, which then enables the cloud provider or data center provider to add storage as necessary without affecting the servers, which means it can scale well and it's cost effective. That would explain that someone actually knows what it is. So get used to, what is the tech, how does the tech work, and why should we use that technology? And by doing so, you'll show that you understand it, and people will be more likely to hire you. So the next thing, the employer has to like you. They have to like you. If they don't like you, it doesn't matter how good you are in the unemployment line, and they're going to hire the likable person. So I need you to be positive. If you're talking about tech stinks, Windows stinks, Linux stinks, Amazon stinks, Oracle stinks, Google stinks, but I'm the best one for you, they're going to kick you right out the door. If they don't escort you out of the door with security, you're lucky that day. Now, if you come in there and you talk about, I love tech, and I love what tech can do for my clients. I've had the fantastic opportunity to work for Amazon. And prior to that, I had a chance to work for Google and Oracle, and I learned so many things to help my clients. And I want to help you with them. Now you're showing me positivity. So some pitfalls to avoid. So many times people talk about their bad manager or their bad last employer. The interview was over right then and there. They showed negativity. And then me as a hiring manager wants to wonder what's wrong with them that their last hiring manager didn't like them. And I'm not going to believe that their last manager was bad. I'm going to think they were bad if they've got negativity for everything. So I need you to show positivity, energy, enthusiasm, and passion for the work, and be positive at all times. Look, nobody hires a negative Nelly. Nobody wants to be on a football team, whether it's American football or the rest of the world's football, where the team captain doesn't want to be there. Show why you're good. Show what you can do for them and show that degree of positivity. You want to show that hiring manager why you're there and what you can do for them. Now, here's the next thing, and this is the saddest thing. Honor, integrity, and trust. An employer cannot hire you if they can't trust you. Now imagine you're going to build a house. And now you've got $1 million to spend on your dream house. And somebody shows up from a construction crew, and they show up drunk, and you don't trust them because they've lied to you 5 times on that first conversation you had with that construction worker, the general contractor. You're getting them out of your house as fast as you can, even if you have to call the police. You're not going to put your money and your future home and your dream home that you've saved your whole life for in someone you don't trust. Imagine marrying someone that you don't trust. You wouldn't do that either. Well, guess what? Hiring someone's a bit like marrying them, and you can't marry or hire someone that you don't trust. So let's think about what goes on here. When I interview someone, I interview them based upon what's on their resume. So if their resume is full of lies and I ask them about things on the resume and they can't answer them, guess what? I can't hire them. And if I ask someone a technology question to check their competency and they can't answer it, if they can't answer one thing and they're honest, guess what? I can still hire them. But if they lie to me, I can't hire them. How bad is the problem of lying on interviews? Well, let me tell you what happened to me on the first person I interviewed 25 years ago, and I've interviewed thousands of people. First person I interviewed came in to be interviewed as a network engineer. I was working at MCI WorldCom. I asked that person a question, and he gave me these ridiculous lies. I asked him about a technology called frame relay, lie after lie after lie. So here's the first thing that I did. I said, please follow me. And I escorted him to the elevator, and I said, it was nice to meet you, but I'm sorry I don't deal with people that lie to me. So my manager, Devendra, comes back 15 minutes later, and he says, Mike, how'd the interview go? I said, that idiot lied to me, and I escorted him out of the room. I didn't call security on him. I was being polite. And Devendra laughed, and he said, Mike, I think we need a more strategic approach. So here's what I did. I got a cookie jar, and I filled it with chocolate chip cookies. Now, I don't eat butter, I don't eat sugar, I don't eat cookies, and I never have. But I got a cookie jar. And when I interviewed people and they started lying to me, I knew I couldn't hire them. But Devendra said I needed to give people a 15-minute interview to make them feel good. So I fed them cookies the entire time. And when they were done the interview, they'd say, how would I do? I said, you lack experience. Come back when you have more experience. Because that was a nice way of saying, I can't hire you. So what can you do instead? You can be honest about what you know and what you don't know. If your resume is honest, then you won't be asked questions that you don't know the answer to, as a rule. And if you don't know, just say, I'm sorry, I've not had the opportunity to learn XYZ technology yet, but I'm highly energetic, I'm highly enthusiastic, and I love technology. I know what I know, and I know what I don't know, and I can find the answers to things I don't know very quickly. If this was important to you, I'd stay up all night, read 500 or 1,000 pages a day until I mastered it. If you want to check my competency, let's talk about X, Y, and Z. But X, Y, and Z have to be the things that you're best at. So you're controlling the interview and putting it in your own terms. Do not lie. I also want you to think about this. If I was going to ask Alonzo a question about marketing to check his competency, do you think I would ask him a question I don't know the answer to? Well, if I did, I wouldn't know whether his answer is honest or not. So I'm only going to ask questions that I already know the answers to. So nobody can bluff or BS me through an interview. The second they do, out, out, out. Now, I may be really polite and feed them cookies for 15 minutes, but I will never hire them. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. I've trained many hiring managers to give out cookies. So if you get asked for cookies, they could have gone through one of my leadership training development programs where I said feed cookies versus, be mean to people. Now, next, you have to be willing to work hard. If you hire somebody to build you that beautiful $1 million dream house, right? And all they want to do is drink beer all day and make funny noises, you're not going to want them. You're going to want someone to come in with attention to detail, do some meticulous work, build your house, get in and out as quickly as possible. So if I ask someone a question, and what do you do? I don't know. I'm interested in this, maybe this, and maybe this. I don't see a fighter. I just don't. Now, if somebody walks in, I'm here to do this. I can do this. Maybe without like a Marine Corps, Master Sergeant look in their eyes. But not that if they give me that, I kind of like that. But, whatever the case is, they don't have to be, harsh, but strong, powerful, and motivated. So show you're willing to work hard. Now, I got to ask you a question. How many people in an interview say, what's the work-life balance here? Or I'm leaving my last employer because I had to work 12 hours a day and it was crazy. I can't tell you the number of times. My last job was a pressure cooker and I had to get out of that. Okay, so now you're telling me you're burned out and you're tired and you're lazy and you don't want to do any work. Again, I can't hire you. So show what you can do. Now, let's say you're an architect and someone's asking you what you've done. And you say, I took a certification. They're like, okay, I took a 800 hour cloud architect career development program. Okay, more motivated. When somebody else says, I set up a WordPress website, you're like, okay, a 14-year-old could do that in less than 3 minutes. And another person says, I built the cloud because I wanted to understand how the entire cloud works, like all of our students do. Who's more competent? Who's more motivated? Who's more willing to go above and beyond? I want you to think about that. The person that got and I'm not recommending this, but the person that got the Cisco Certified Internet Expert certification, that 3 million plus people have attempted and only 60,000 people passed. Compare that with an AWS Solutions Architect Professional, which is 500 pages of reading, not 75,000 pages of reading for a CCIE, that hundreds, if not thousands of people pass each day, as opposed to maybe 3 people can pass per day for Cisco. Think about that. So 40 certifications shows me you're not willing to do anything hard. You're just willing to take the easy stuff. 1 or 2 deep professional ones shows me a lot. So think about that. Now here's my next favorite one. We ask people their strengths and weaknesses. And why do we do it? Because we know people are going to lie and hide it. We want to know if the person knows themselves. Why? Think about that Google Cloud outage because somebody didn't understand BGP well enough and misconfigured it. Think about Facebook being down for an entire day last year because someone misconfigured BGP. I bet you that person thought, I passed the certification, I know BGP. But look at the millions and tens of millions or hundreds of millions of dollars that cost the company. We need to be there. So keep that in the back of your mind. So you must have strengths and weaknesses, some that will work and some that will not work. Here's the one that ends the interview. What's your strengths and weaknesses? Well, my weakness is I can't say no to people, so I take on so much work that in the end I'm fatigued. That is a fake weakness. Every hiring manager knows it. They know it's a lie, and the interview is over. Now, I'll give you a real weakness, and Chris and Alonzo can attest to this real weakness. I can say my strength is that I learn quick, I can lead large teams of people, I can close large deals. What's my weakness? I'm a bit disorganized, and it's something I've been working on by creating a series of checklists, calendar reminder events. And it's true. And it is a real weakness. So you have to show a real weakness. You must. And they have to believe it. And truth be told, when you talk, if you're saying this is my weakness, but you're shaking your head no, they're going to read your body language as untruthful. So the key is it has to be a real weakness, and it can't be a showstopper. A showstopper shows laziness. A showstopper is problems dealing with people. A showstopper is I'm a lone wolf. Other weaknesses we can get past, like I'm a little disorganized. So find your real weakness and talk about what you're willing to do to overcome it, what you've been doing to overcome it, and how it's less of a weakness now than it used to be when you were young. But don't say I'm lazy as a weakness, because that's it. It's the end. It is over. Now, the next thing is you have to be able to sell yourself. You must. What's the interview? It's a sales call. What's your resume? It's a marketing document. It's an advertisement that says, why should I interview you? So we got our marketing execs like Alonzo that teach our students how to build the right resume and the right LinkedIn profile to go build that brand. And now you're on that interview. How do you sell yourself? What's special about you? I promise you, every last one of you has something that's so good about you that if you learn how to use it right, it's your superpower. 100% of all of you. Can you find it? Do you know what it is? What can you do for that employer? What is it unique about you and your special skills that get the job done? I want you to think about that, and we'll get to questions soon. I know my strengths and what's special about me. 1, I know how to bring large people together from a wide variety of backgrounds to achieve big things. And I've done it throughout my life. I also know how to get to the heart of the matter and ask the right questions without offending people. That's a strength of mine. It really is. And I also have spent, I've read about 3,000 business books and done 1 3/4 MBAs. And I've got the business acumen to optimize business. Those are the things that I sell. I don't tell people, look, I don't like to work on Linux, and I don't code, and I don't like to code. I mean, that's not anything they care about, but I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about what I can do for them. Chris may not even realize it, but he's got the ability to dive into data and draw analytical things that nobody even could see and trends. It's his special thing. We all have something special. So I want you to find your special thing and push it. Now, the next thing is you've got to have a good elevator pitch. You have to. Here's what an elevator pitch is. You happen to be in an elevator with the CEO of a business, and you got 30 seconds between floors to tell them why they need you or your product or services. Have to. What's the first question on an interview? Tell me about yourself. What's the last question on an interview? Why should I hire you? What are they checking on? Can you communicate quickly, efficiently, and sell? You want to be a cloud architect or a solutions architect. If you can't sell the solution, nobody's going to buy it. And all you've developed was pretty PowerPoint-ware, Visio documents, or Lucidchart documents, and Word documents, and a crazy statement of works. It's dead. It's nothing. It's paper. If you can sell, not only can your salary be $100,000 to $200,000 more per year, and I can show you that on charts if you want to believe it, if you haven't seen it before, but if you can sell, you can close the deal. If you can't sell your architecture, your customer won't adopt it. It won't help them. So you've got to be able to sell. So I need you to be able to figure out what it is about you in 20 to 30 seconds or less, because any longer than that, the people's attention span is gone. Next, when you talk to them, what's in it for the employer? What are they going to get by hiring you? We know what most people talk about. What are you going to give me? I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this. Well, I want you to think about this. Let's say, I wanted to go somewhere. I got a great wife. She's put up with me for 28 years. I love her very much. And let's say I decided that I wanted to go camping in the wilderness. And my wife wants to go to the Hilton or the Marriott because she wants it comfortable. I might talk about glamping. Well, we're going to go find a beautiful lake and it's attached to a hotel, and the hotel has a jacuzzi. They've got a massage therapy place. They've got a spa in there. They have a nice dress store. And here's some money for dresses and shoes. They happen to have I don't know who makes fancy handbags. Alonzo would know because his wife and my wife buy the same stuff. There's a handbag store there. There's a shoe store. And then she'd be willing to do it. So I got to show what's in it for her. Otherwise, Mike living off the land in the wilderness with a fishing pole who's going to forage for berries is just not going to work for my wife. So you got to show what's in it for them. If that employer hires you, can you raise the energy on the team? Can you close large deals? Are you a workhorse that'll get more work done than somebody else? What is in it for them? And think about it. The hiring manager has goals. You have to understand their goals. I want you to understand this from the hiring manager's perspective. If their team does more and produces better output, the hiring manager gets a raise. How many hiring managers don't want a raise? And the hiring manager gets promoted. So think about this. What can you do for that hiring manager? And in the end, if you want to know which questions to ask, I'll tell you that too. But what's in it for the hiring manager and what's in it for the company? Show them what's in it for them. If the hiring manager's work doesn't get done, they get fired. So you want to show that you're going to make them get promoted, not fired. Now, the next thing is these ridiculous behavioral questions. So I think behavioral questions are the stupidest thing in the entire world. And I'll tell you why. The people that believe in behavioral questions, and some tech companies do for I can't even imagine what reason, they assume that the person you were when you were 2 years old and the person you are at 90 years old are the same, as if there's no education, growth, or development, which is why I hate behavioral questions. They work on the assumption that the stupid thing you did when you were 18 is going to be the same stupid way you respond when you're 50. So I want you to think about that. So how do you answer these things? Well, first, that's why the companies are asking these things. So first thing I want you to determine is, what are they really asking? And that's the first part of answering these things. So if someone says, tell me about a problem you had with a coworker and what you did with it, what you did about it, what are they really asking you? They're trying to gauge your communication skills. They're trying to gauge your problem-solving skills. They're trying to gauge your emotional intelligence, and they're trying to test their judgment. So have an answer around that. Look, you can use the STAR method, which is a great way for untrained people to answer these questions. And I recommend that for people that aren't highly trained. For people that were expertly training, there's a more precision way to do it without looking like you read a cookie cutter magazine. But here's the thing. If they're trying to see what happened, they're trying to see what you did. Did you have to call your manager and somebody got fired? Does that show good problem resolution skills? I had a problem with the coworker. They just weren't getting the job done. So I set aside a time to the coworker. I took them out to lunch and I asked them questions. When I spoke to them, I found out that their mother had a health issue. They were going through a divorce with their wife. And I figured out a way that I could assist them with their things and get some of their tasks covered. And we became best friends for life. And together we worked together and had a harmonious response. Think about how something like that would sound. Versus, I had a problem. The person was unreasonable. So I went to my manager and we called HR and we had a deep discussion with them. That might actually be appropriate, but it's not showing that positivity, that likability, or these kind of things. So I want you to think about that. Show them, tell them what they need to hear. And you may have to game these questions, and here's the reason why. Maybe the last time you had a problem with a coworker, you were 18 years old, working at a restaurant. And maybe now you've had 15 years of professional experience, you've had an MBA, and you've had a lot of emotional intelligence training, and you don't have a problem anymore. So sometimes here you have to game the system. They're trying to assume that you never got better as you grew, and maybe you did. I'm assuming you did. Now, the last part of the things that I want, and then we'll answer people's questions and work with you, or my team will provide insight, is in the end of the interview, it's your opportunity to ask questions. I got to tell you, I've seen so many people deliver good interviews and then they ask the wrong questions. So remember what I said. Can you do the job? Are you energetic, enthusiastic, and passionate about the work? Can they trust you? Are you willing to go above and beyond? Are you a great team player? These are the kind of things companies are looking for. You know what people usually ask me I have questions? How many weeks vacation do I get? Does that show the hiring manager you're serious about the job? There's plenty of time to negotiate that after you get an offer. Or, do we work more than 8 hours a day here? Don't ask that. Am I going to have to travel? Don't ask anything like that. What's the work-life balance? No, not now. There's a time and a place, and everything's about timing, but not now. Ask the hiring manager, could you tell me what your goals are and the company's goals so that I know that if I was part of your team, I'd be sure that I could make you more successful? Does that show that you are trying to solve problems for them? It does. But here's the thing. This is going to be the only time you're ever going to get an answer to the job description question. You're going to see a job description that's going to ask for 10 Olympic gold medals, 5,000 years experience in 42 different people's careers, which is going to be a garbage job description. And now the hiring manager said, these are my goals and these are the company's goals. Guess what your job is? Helping them with those problems. And now you get the real job description. So these are the things I want you to think about. Of the thousands and thousands and thousands of times I've interviewed technology professionals over the years, the people that win are the people that can show these things. The people that make these mistakes, and I'm going to tell you, it's about 98% of the people that make these mistakes. And you may be able to make these mistakes on an intro-level sysadmin position, or a network admin position, or an entry-level coder, but you're not going to be able to do this for a cloud architect job or a solution architect job. And yes, I want you to learn the cloud architect questions and answers to technical questions, but we're going to ask you stuff that's on your resume. Be prepared to defend every statement on your resume. So seems like I babbled here for about 20, 30 minutes right now.
Yeah, let's help Mike down off of his soapbox here for a second. So I know we got a lot of questions there in the chat box. Some really good questions as well. But the one about what color is your favorite color, and or what color would you be, and what type of animal are you? Those are not the good questions. No. Those are those behavioral questions. I'll raise my hand. I put the animal one in there just for fun. But I'd like to bring Alonzo in. I know Alonzo's got some talking points as well. I'd love to hear what Alonzo's got to say. And then we'll definitely get to some of these questions and we'll have conversations about these topics. So Alonzo, what are some of your more important points about the interview?
Well, Chris and Mike, I think some of the we talked a lot about how you're going to interact during the interview. I think it's just as important to prepare before you get there. So, say for instance, you've already had rapport with the hiring manager, interviewer. They want to bring you in, and they've scheduled a specific date for you to get there. Okay, if you have information or you have access to finding out who your hiring manager is, it would be a great opportunity you to find out what that person's interests are, what their educational background is, what are their preferences on what facets of the cloud architecture or frameworks or interests that you can get a hold of. Anything that can help you align your positioning with what they like, how they like getting things done, what is their leadership style, how do they interact with their team members, anything like that, so that you can come in there prepared, being able to position yourself in a way that makes sense. And it's just very important for you to try that. So, all of these things help formulate how you can get them to focus on you, what you're saying, how you're looking, and so forth. And I think another part of it is about your appearance. Think about what you're going to wear. Think about how you're going to wear it. One of my personal preferences is that if you have to physically be there, to wear an agnostic scent. You don't know what people like or dislike. So if you like cherry scent or you like a spice scent, people around you may even be allergic. And they're going to be so focused on what you smell like that they're not paying attention to your competency and so forth. And they're going to assume you're going to wear this all the time. Sounds petty, they'll dismiss you. Okay. So let's make sure that your overall appearance is focused on your competency, your ability to communicate, provide value, create solutions, and so forth for the organization. So I always recommend, if you notice, I like dressing up. I like having a button down, a shirt, a corresponding sports jacket. Think about your colors. Think about how you look. If you want to go in there, I prefer a black suit. Wear a very nice tie to go with it. Or if you're wearing something on the feminine side, then definitely wear, again, a business suit to focus, to help you exemplify your professionalism. Okay. So always look at your appearance, your hygiene, what type of suit you're wearing. If you can wear a very high end suit, that's awesome. If that's not within your price range, at least borrow a suit if you have to. Look the part. They don't need to know where you got it. They just want to see that you're able to be professional. You're able to showcase your value as if you would in front of a client. So making sure that your professionalism goes well with the next part, which is going to be your confidence and demeanor. Now, I saw a couple of mentions about people being nervous in an interview. It's natural, okay? It's okay. However, one of the things that help with you reducing that type of nervousness is, one, make sure you're confident and competent in whatever you're communicating. One of the examples that I've done before is that if there's a particular subject matter I am very, very knowledgeable in, I will practice around my loved ones, people that I trust, and being able to communicate it and break it down in a way that a 6-year-old, a 5-year-old, anyone can understand. The same thing applies to the tech. Number two, practice in the mirror yourself. You can look at your demeanor, your expressions. You can look at how you're gesturing, how your eye contact is, and so forth. And by providing that type of energy, that type of demeanor, that type of positivity, and so forth, it is infectious. So if you are providing and projecting this type of demeanor, odds are the person or panel in front of you is going to receive it with the next, with with that same type of positivity. So make sure that you're doing this, okay? One of the other things that I think about as well is that during this interview, it is transactional, which means that you have to listen, communicate, and speak, and make sure that the associated party is understanding you as well. Be very cognitive of what they're expressing, what they're explaining to you, i.e., listening skills. Okay, 2 ears, 1 mouth. Okay, so we're going to listen twice as good, and only communicate specifically, succinctly, and competently what they want to receive from you. Okay, so it's very critical that you're able to disseminate what they're asking of you, because you're going to be dealing with ambiguity. You're going to be dealing with the fluidity of a particular project. It may be going well, may go totally left, it may go totally right. But learn to be fungible, learn to be able to be adaptive and showcase that skill in that interview as well. Okay. So these are some of the things that I like about understanding about being prepared before you get to the interview. Now, here comes the interview. Okay. You're in it. Everything is flowing well. Everything is communicating. We want to be able to control that interview. How do we do that? We're going to keep that discussion towards any subject that you know you're able to fluently explain. Okay, you're able to understand what that tech is, what it does, when you would use it, how you are able to associate those with business cases, and in that with how you can provide value based off that discussion. Okay, always end any type of response with a solution you can provide, because if it's everyone can identify a problem, that's not hard to do, but no one can actually provide the solution therewith. So being able to associate, this is what I would do. If there's a problem, I'm able to provide the solutions or be involved with a team that can provide these solutions and options towards those solutions in the event that there may be some fluid information that we may not be cognizant of. So understanding how to do this. Throughout all of this, keep gaining rapport or sharing rapport with this person. Go back to the above subject. If there are any key points about this person that you want to associate with, their favorite sport, their favorite player, their favorite downtime, and being able to provide and bring that type of relationship in to solutions is always going to be great. I just found out a friend of mine utilized a specific quote in French, and I'm sure Mike and Chris can understand who that might be. And it just wowed the particular interviewer because they knew how to speak French. They understood a lot of languages as well. So being able to tie in these associate skills with these things that people may know of is really going to drive home not only your ability to do the job, but how you do it via emotional intelligence, ability to build rapport, ability to showcase your personality and how you would work well in an environment as well. Okay. So another thing is, what if you don't know the answer? Okay. And even if you don't remember the answer, but you know it, don't say, well, I know this question, but I can't remember it right now. Just say, you know what, to be honest, I don't know what that is. But whatever it is that you need me to learn, I will make sure that I will be the SME for this organization to continually not only provide value for this organization, but specifically for this department and how I can leverage value for you personally. So understanding how to do that is always going to be an art form as well as a science, as we can prescribe for you in all the details. So another thing is that, again, when I mentioned this before, all your answers are going to lead back to how you can provide business value for your manager, for your team, for your department, for your silo, for your organization. So make sure that you keep all of these in the forefront of your mind. There will be some other points that I can share with you later, but I'm sure that we want to get to a couple of questions you all may have.
Actually, I want you to keep going with that next point, because the next point I'm gonna pivot from that point to some of these questions.
Okay.
So keep going with that next point you got. Like I told you, everybody, I made them share their notes with me. I didn't prepare, but I know what Alonzo's got coming up, and it's an important one.
Okay. Well, you know what? One of the things, and especially Chris, I appreciate that, as you continually, in conjunction with what I mentioned about controlling interview, look at how your interviewer is receiving the information that you're communicating. Remember, everything is an observation while you're talking. You got a lot of plate spinning, if you will. You're trying to communicate your value, understand what they want, be able to provide answers to their questions, but also gauge how they're interacting with you using your rapport, emotional intelligence, demeanor, personality, positively, and so forth. There may be a particular presenter or someone on the panel who may not be receiving you so well. They may be leaning in, or leaning back. What does that mean? If I'm leaning into you, I'm really loving what you're presenting to me. I'm really loving your solutions, how you tackle a problem, how you've done it in the past, how you can tie it into what this position can bring forward. Or I'm leaning back. I don't like what you're saying. Okay. I'm leaning back, which means I'm leaning away or getting away from what you're presenting to me because I don't like it. It's nails on a chalkboard to me. I can't discern the value or so forth. Or let's talk about what you do in that scenario. They're not liking what you're saying. Pivot, okay? Pivot immediately to something that you know very well. Tie it back. Keep the ball in your court. Because the strategy that I always want you all to keep in mind is that if they're asking you a question, answer it succinctly, in a detailed manner, positively, in a way that they can't answer any more questions. You drill down to that specific subject matter about how it continually brings value, what happens if this happens, what happens in this industry, what happens here, or you can even provide some current statistics that you can pull and say, this is what happens based off of this. It showcases what's going on in the industry and how it can relate to the current job as well. So being able to pivot that if they don't like it is key. Also, eye contact. If I'm talking to you like, well, this is what happens, and I'm looking everywhere else, but in front of the interviewer, right or wrong, it shows that it gives you impression I don't know what I'm doing. I don't have the confidence to know what I'm doing. I may be lying, any of these things. So always keep in mind that when you're interviewing, not only are you interviewing them, or rather they're interviewing you're interviewing them, and they're also gauging how you're going to speak and communicate in front of a client, which could be bringing in 8 to 9 figures for their organization to keep it up and running. So always think about how you're presenting, how you're pulling, you're communicating, disseminating knowledge, and creating those interactions in there. So another thing is body positioning. You see me, I'm sitting up straight. If I'm slumping and I'm sitting here, and I know I'm being very dramatic in the sitting, and how I'm positioning, but it's very important. I'm sitting up because I am very interested in communicating the value that you need to as an interviewee. Okay, I need you all to understand that you want to showcase your importance, your desire to be there. I want to work for you, but this is the value that I'm bringing to the table, so you can see what type of worker I am, what type of team member I'll be, what type of leader that I can continually draw forth in this role to support you as my hiring manager or as my team leader. Everything you talk about, everything that you say, how you look is going to be an impression and an opportunity impression for you to leave that in their minds well after you're gone. So these are some of the things that I think is key to who you are as an interviewer, the value you can bring forth, and ultimately, throughout the life cycle of this transaction. So another thing that I think is important, and I know Mike is going to touch on this, is that they're going to ask, tell me about yourself. The wrong wrong response is, well, I love to practice martial arts. There's a lot of other things that I like to do. I like to draw, illustrate. I love to read books. And so they don't care. They could care less about what you do in the off time. But what you do in the meantime, when they're paying you, when they're presenting offers for you for promotions, stock options, bonuses, any type of financial or monetary gain that you earn in this position, how are you going to bring forth value? That's what they care about. That's what they want to know. So they want to know, about how your competency is going to bring value to the business. Are you fungible? Meaning, Are you likable? Because at the end of the day, I could have the network knowledge of 16 lifetimes. I could recite everything that Cisco has ever published in the history of that organization. But if I am someone that is totally repulsive in personality, I'm not going to get hired. But if I'm cool, I may not know as much, but I'm willing to learn. I'm adaptable. I'm agreeable. I'm positive. I'm able to adjust. I'm still able to provide ideas and be able to work in teams to provide value. And every time I leave a circle of teammates, leadership, I'm leaving them energized, positive, and they're going to always remember me every step of the way. These are the type of people that they want to work for the organization. Regardless, I mean, of course, you're going to have a level of competency, but your desire to learn and grow is something that they can say, I can work with this person. I would enjoy working with this person. It would be so much fun to create architectural solutions with vendors, tag teaming with clients, and getting the job done with this particular person. Okay. So another thing is, let's go back to it. Are you a team player? Are you a solo person? Can you feel like you're going to do it all on your own? And I've come across particular people who want to hog particular pieces of work, cherry pick it, and want to claim it as their own. But if things go awry, they want to say it's the team's fault. That's not the type of people that we want to work with. That's not the type of people that you want to showcase. So always talk about how you can become a great team player. Okay. Another thing is, are you a leader? There may be some times where you have to adjust, you have to pivot, you have to actually lead, not manage, lead teams of engineers, program developers, and so forth to get the job done, drive home that value, optimize this particular architecture. How do you do it? It goes right back to recounting again. What do they like? Do they like to eat? Do they like steaks? Do they like, are they vegans? What particular cultural food that they like? Find out what they like. It showcases that you're thinking about them. It showcases that you are thoughtful of their time. You appreciate them as a professional and how it brings value into this architecture. So showcasing your ability to lead and get people to do the best of to do the best job possible without any type of managerial or authority shows the sign of a true leader. Okay. Another thing is, do you have the emotional intelligence? Getting up in the morning and working with a team of awesome, positive people every day is total fiction. Okay. You're going to come across people who are, they could be negative. They could not be confident. They might be dealing with things outside of the scope of work, which is really affecting who they are as a person, or directly towards you. You're dealing with someone who's negative. They don't like you for whatever reason, or no reason at all. How are you adapting with using your EQ to not only quell discussions, but meet people where they are, understand who they are, create peace, synergy, business relationships, and be able to draw forth anything that you can find to turn that negativity into a positive, so that at the end of the day, just like you want to leave that circle of leadership, you want to leave that circle of particular people who may start off negatively towards you, but next thing you know, they are allies, teammates, and maybe even friends. So it's important for you to have emotional intelligence to be able to adapt to great as well as negative situations. Another very important key is, can they trust you? Are you willing to admit what you know and admit what you don't know? Are you able to leave you on a proverbial island to do your work? And can they come back and know that you're going to get the job done? Can they trust you with clients? Can they trust you with key information? Can they trust you with sensitive information? Are you able to be and exemplify everything that they need as an employee? You need to be trustworthy so that you, quite honestly, don't damage the reputation of the business, any type of projects or anything else. So it's important for you to keep all these together. So these are a few nuggets of things that I have. I have a lot more, but in the interest of time, we can talk about that at another point.
Yeah, I asked you for reading body language, and you gave me everything else under the sun. Let me pivot back to why I wanted you to go to the reading the body language. The first question that we got earlier in the show was from Millie, and Millie asked, "Where did it go? Where did it go? Here it is. Can I be ecstatically chipper in an interview?" And I think the long and short answer of that is it depends.
Yes.
Depends on the situation. Depends on your on the way the room is reading. Maybe chipper is perfect. Maybe it's not. Now there's a follow up to that later on. Basically, she gets nervous. And that turns into excitement, which then turns into chipperness, which then turns, it starts the whole cycle. So let's talk about that nervousness, that preparing so that you're not nervous.
And absolutely, the controlling your emotions is absolutely critical. Now, Millie, you're in our program, so we have some cognitive behavior therapy where you can use to take your thoughts and correct your thoughts to make you more calm. We also have some meditation and some breathing techniques. You've got to find a way to keep your emotions managed. Personally, and it's part of my daily routine, I practice yoga every morning. I meditate at least once every day, usually in the evening, sometimes twice. But if you can control your breath, you can control your mind. So you're going to have to find something that's good for you. Now, until you master these techniques, and they take some time, I can give you some recommendations. Avoid stimulants like coffee, especially if you're going to be stressed. Don't give your body anything extra that can make it be stressed. The day before, don't go drinking a lot of alcohol the night before and wake up feeling kind of garbagey. Eat healthy foods to manage your blood sugars. Typically, before an interview, I'll make sure that my meals have some protein, fat, and carbohydrates in reasonable proportions. So there's that. But you've got to control your emotions. Now, if what's on your resume is honest, it's going to be much easier controlling your emotions. If you're honest with them, again, it'll be much easier controlling your emotions. But, that's why we have that mental focus training, Millie, in all of our training, to teach you how to be calm under pressure. Because whether it's an interview or all of a sudden you're visiting a client and they just spent, $2 billion with your organization in the last 5 years and things are broken, kind of keep that in the back. You're still going to have to stay calm. So that's how I would recommend doing it.
All right. So let's see. We got a question from Vernon. Vernon says, what is a good response if one is a fast worker? We're talking about strengths and weaknesses. This is when this came in. What's a good response if one is a fast worker and typically whoever they partner with works slower or less?
So if I'm not really sure what you're trying to say. If you're trying to say that you're a fast worker and the people on your teams are slow workers, that's not going to help you because you're now speaking negatively of people. Now, if you're a fast worker and you can't get other people to work fast, it's going to make a hiring manager question your leadership abilities. Why can't you bring out the best in others? But Vernon, let's talk about being a team player and let's talk about analyzing your strengths. I'm really good at getting a whole lot of stuff done real quick, but I need somebody to clean up the mistakes or the errors that are going to come with it. So when you do these things and you're building the teams, team success is about putting the right people in the right place. Maybe you've got 2 or 3 people on the team that can grind it out really fast. And maybe after that, you've got someone else that can finesse it and make it better. The key to being a good architect is being a good leader. And the good leader is putting people in the right positions to be successful. So instead of talking about that, talk about what you can do and how you can build the right team and put the right people in the right place. So you're maximally successful. You'll fare far better, Vernon. And please feel free to ask more questions. And anybody that's got questions, we'll get to them. 1 or 2 of these questions.
Do what?
1 or 2 of these questions later, especially from Mr. Singh. We definitely have to answer your question. Please stick around. It's very important to your success.
Yep. I'm trying to get through them all. How can a person get rid of the butterflies before sitting down for an interview? We just hit on that one briefly just before this, talking about the about that emotional, that mental focus, mental toughness, and meditation content that we've got
Yep.
there in the program for you, Al. So make sure you look for that. But yes, a very simple answer: breathe,
Breathe.
breathe. If you're not in the program, breathe. If you are in the program, go look at that content in the program. Should the special thing about oneself supposed to be in relation to being a cloud architect role? Ooh, that's a good one.
You know, that's a really good question, Garada. And if it is, yes. If not, that's okay too. So I want you to really think about it. There's no architect that is going to be designing a solutions by themselves unless they're dealing with 2 and 3 people a company. And a 2 and 3 person company is not going to pay $250,000 a year to hire a cloud architect or more. So you're not going to be working with small companies. So I'd say, what can you do for them? Is your special thing that you can sell? Go talk about that. Is your special thing that you can work 24 hours, 3 days in a row because you used to be in a Navy SEAL team and you got used to working when you're fatigued? If so, talk about that. Is your special thing that you can bring out the best in others? That's a special thing. Talk about that. Is your special thing that you can learn quickly? For example, my wife learned Spanish in 10 days because she tried to practice medicine with the Spanish community and her translators didn't understand her thoughts. Who wouldn't want someone that can learn a language in 10 days on their team? I mean, seriously, that's a special thing. You could be so happy and positive that you bring out smiles in everyone. Again, that's really good. So if you can show and tie it back to the job, much better. If you can't tie it back to the job, tie it back to what you can do for the team and the company. Again, you're still winning. So yeah, anytime you can bring it back to what's in it for them and the what's in it for them affects the reason they're hiring you in the first place, yeah, that's good stuff.
All right. When is a good time, or before the negotiation part, when do we talk about salary? And then when is a good time to negotiate your salary during an interview?
So, Millie, you never discuss salary during the interview. You wait for the person to want you, and that's when you've got your negotiation power. Now, a lot of times, and I won't participate in this because I like to be upfront and honest about pricing, but a lot of companies, you don't see the pricing, and they'll never show it to you. And then you got to book a call with their sales teams. And then after that, when they've shown you enough value, then they can spring some stupid price on you that's so expensive that they knew you'd be afraid to see it and run away. Well, you kind of almost want to be there. So the key is you want to show them what you can do for them. You want to show them what they like about you. You want to show them why they need you. And then you're in a position to ask for whatever you want. And it's all about timing. So, think about how and why you're more desirable. Let's say, for example, my wife and I decide we're going to go buy a new house. And we go look at the house. And the house on the surface shows this price. And then my wife saw the samples with the all marble floors and the spiral staircase and all these other things. Once my wife has said, dear, we're buying this house. And then I find out there's another $50,000 or $75,000 of upgrades. After I've been told that I have to buy this house for my wife, I'll probably spend the $50,000 to $75,000 more. And many people will. And that's what happens. They go to buy a new home. By the time they're done with the upgrades, which is things like, would you like outlets in the room? And would you like tiles or carpet flaring? Poof, the price goes up after they've determined to buy it and buy it already. But before, if they saw what the price was, they wouldn't even go look at the sample house in the first place. So you've got to wait until somebody's made you the offer. That's when you negotiate, not beforehand.
Let's take that a step further about the negotiation. So somebody's made you an offer. Do you negotiate? How hard do you negotiate? Can you afford to negotiate?
Yeah.
I was speaking with someone earlier today, and they're not currently working. They got a reasonable offer and they wanted to negotiate. And I said, okay, so how hard are you going to negotiate? What's your best alternative? What's your current situation? Are you negotiating something that you can't afford to negotiate and lose? So that's another thing you got to think about. So what Mike said, you don't talk about you don't talk about salary, they bring up the salary. You don't talk about vacation, they bring up the vacation. And it's not only does it work in your favor, it also shows their hand. When they start to talk about what they offer to their people, when they start to talk about what they think would be a reasonable compensation for you, that's showing their hand. So now you've got a bit of an upper hand, maybe not on the negotiation, but on how to play the interview and how to play the process. So, but so be careful with the negotiation there. And I know Mike's got a couple of examples. I think we've all got a couple of examples where we had to talk to people back from the negotiation land, just like, whoa,
absolutely.
Let's follow that pride a little bit. Like, I mean, because the concern is, well, they don't know my value. Well, that's because we got to prove your value. And what better way to do it than to get paid pretty good to prove your value and then parlay that into something more. So just keep that in mind, because so many people make that mistake. Is they'll try to negotiate something that they can't afford to negotiate, and then they got
And that's really important. So if you go to negotiation training, they tell you need to make a BATNA. And the BATNA is your best alternative to the negotiated agreement. Meaning, if you can't negotiate an agreement, what's your backup plan? So if you have two job offers and you can negotiate against each other intelligently, your backup plan is the second job offer. It's no big deal. I will tell you, about a year ago, and I nearly had a mini heart attack. I had a student that had a $40,000 a year job that got a $150,000 solution architect job for a bank after our training. And she sends me a message. They offered me $150,000, so I negotiated it. My heart dropped. And I said, isn't this $110,000 more than you're earning right now? What if it doesn't go through? And she says, I used your negotiation training. Now, they did come back with 170, but that was a risk that I wouldn't have taken if it was my first tech job and a $110,000 raise. I would have looked at that and said, this is a gift. Thank you. I'll my work and move forward.
That was a bold move.
It was.
But the great thing, like, understand, if you are in a position where it is significant change and upgrade in your salary, the money will come. Keep presenting and providing your value. They don't want to let go of high quality people, so they're going to compensate you as necessary.
All right, so gonna do a double whammy here. GCP folks says, should I aim for enterprise cloud architect or cloud architect? You asked them what their goal was, and they said their goal was help the business to grow with cloud and to grow my career as well. So that didn't really answer.
It kind of did. So GCP folks, if your answer is you only want to help them with the cloud, then you want to be a cloud architect. If you want to help them with everything and have a much bigger impact than you ever could with just the cloud, then you want to be an enterprise architect. Cloud's just a tool. It's just renting space in somebody else's network and data center. So if that's all you want to do is just keep it to that, great. If you want to do it something much bigger and help the business transform its entire business, its people, processes, and technology, you want to be an enterprise architect. Now, you're going to have a lot more career upside as an enterprise architect. But to be fair, it's generally easier to get a cloud architect job or a solution architect job first and then move into an enterprise architect job than it necessarily is to go straight to the enterprise architect. Now, granted, I've trained people like Jermaine Hefton, selling landscaping gear. First job was an enterprise architect after we trained him. Or Wallace Agan, a great guy. He was a sales rep, and we got him his first job as an enterprise architect after our training. But generally speaking, it's easier to get a cloud architect job as your first architect job and your first tech job, and then move into something bigger.
All right. Now, here's the question I think you're referring to earlier. How do I explain it on my resume that I do not have work experience, but through personal projects, I have learned to design architecture properly? I've made enough mistakes on my AWS account.
So first, I want you to come tomorrow on the How to Get Your First Cloud Job webinar.
Thursday.
Thursday on the How to Get Your First Cloud Job webinar. And I want you to completely download the How to Become an Architect job guide. And because Pradeep, what you just told me is you're telling me exactly why I should not hire you as a cloud architect. And I'm going I'm being polite about it, but here's the reason why. Do you know what you don't do as an architect? You don't go to your AWS account and you don't build anything. In fact, Pramit, if you work at AWS, Azure, Google, Cisco, IBM, Accenture, Deloitte, KPMG, Capgemini, and you touch your client's technology, you'll be fired and escorted out the door by security. So you need to show that you know design, and design has nothing to do with building. So if I were to ask you a simple architecture question, how would you design your secure demilitarized zone for a mission critical web application that needs enterprise grade security? How could you answer that? If I said an organization has a 6.2% weighted average cost of capital, how would you factor that in? 2, determining whether to build a private cloud or a hybrid cloud versus use the public cloud, how would you factor that in? If I were to ask you an architecture question, which is something like an organization has 250,000 remote employees, how would you set that up for maximum security and maximum routing efficiency? Again, that's an architect thing. And no matter how much time we spend in our AWS account, we learn how to build, which is not how to design. And that's why the people that build buildings, like the construction workers, don't get asked to design a hotel or a skyscraper or a mall, because you need to learn architecture by being trained to do architecture, or learning system design, which is not system building. Come to that free webinar. We can assess you on there. We can see what you know and not know. And then if you know it, we can put down a place where you can actually learn it. Now, for our students, we give them a job title and an internship, so they have a year's of experience, probably a year of experience by the time they get hired, but that's us. But you've got to be able to show design and not personal projects. No hiring manager cares about what you've built. And I know that sounds sad because there's all these certification people, and years ago we talked about why they couldn't get you hired. And then they came to us and we got them hired, and they figured out that maybe they needed to start all these cloud projects. And now they started all these hands-on building projects, and now the employers are still saying, you're showing me engineering, not architecture. You can and will, Pramit, get an incredible job. You've got a name that means lion. I mean, seriously, take that ferocity and learn the right skills, and you will have a career that is extremely good. But you can't confuse architecture with engineering, which is what I see going on with your personal projects in your AWS account.
I got a feeling Alonzo might want to tackle this one with you, Mike. How easy is it to get to know the hiring manager before the interview? Any steps to follow to find out who the hiring manager is?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, once you, say for instance, the hiring manager, if you have a very good recruiter, they're going to be able to give you a lot of quality intel that you need to start preparing and understanding the role and how to leverage what you know and connect business value in your presentation in the interview. Okay. So asking the hiring manager, the recruiter, who am I interviewing with? Are there interests? Look on their LinkedIn account. Try to find out if there are any associated TED Talks they may have been involved with, or any type of public speaking. Look at that information. Try to tie that in to what they into that particular interview, and you're going to build rapport. You're going to be able to showcase that you are willing to research about them the same way you would attack a client, or rather research and understand a client and things like that. So that would be a forefront in what I would think about. Recon that person, show their likes, dislikes, understand their TED Talks, their associated presentation skills and styles, and incorporate what they know in their associated background on LinkedIn. Create a bit of a dossier, if you will, study it, and try to apply that in your interview.
Yeah, so Garada, it's the same thing. I'm going to use a term. It's called an open source investigation. It's used by the government would use it when evaluating people. People will do it on you. And what they're going to do is they're going to look at all your social media posts, everything you've posted, anything that you've seen. So a lot of times when somebody posts a job, the company posted and the hiring manager posted on LinkedIn, hey, if you're interested, apply for this. So you may actually find out who the hiring manager is just by the post. But you'll find out what the hiring manager likes and dislikes by their Facebook and Instagram page, and maybe their Twitter page. You're going to find out about their professional accomplishments and what they're talking about on their LinkedIn page. Your ability to search and figure things out will determine how, and your ability to do reconnaissance will find things. Maybe you find that they support a cat charity, and maybe they like cats, and you can use that as a point to create rapport. I like cats, but that's neither here nor there. Maybe they deal with some, what do you call it? Maybe they've got some other charity they're part of. You can learn a lot about people by what they post online. So do your reconnaissance. For people like me, I can pretty much find almost any piece of information I actually ever needed to know. So I know you pretty much can too.
All right. So I'll ask, how does a person know the interview went very well?
Well, that's an easy one.
He'll call you back.
First, they'll call you back. And let's say I'm interviewing Alonzo and it's going well. You know, Alonzo, you'll probably be working with Chris and Leo and Chow. You're going to probably be doing this. Here's what your workday would look like, Alonzo. And they're going to start using terms like that. They really will. The other thing is, when you're done your interview, you have to send them a thank you note.
Yes.
Thanking them for your time. On low-paying jobs, you should still do it. On high-paying jobs like an architect, it is mandatory and essential. And a lot of hiring managers won't hire you if you don't know the etiquette. If you hire a hiring manager and thank them for taking time with you and they respond to you in 5 minutes, which they usually do if they really love you, or 10 minutes or an hour, the interview went real well and they're going to hire you. If you write them a thank you and you don't hear back, they're not going to know. Eloquent, when they're talking to you and the person's leaning in and smiling, it's going well. Crossing their arms, it's not going so well. So read the body language. Are their feet pointing to you? Woohoo, they like you. Are their feet pointing to the door? They're trying to get the heck out of there and they don't want to listen to another word you have to say. Are they smiling? Are they frowning? If they're smiling, is there wrinkles above their eyes? Good job, it's a real smile. Or is it this? No wrinkles, no smile. That's a fake smile. So hopefully that can help you a little bit.
Always remember the body language. Just keep that in mind and you'll be in a great space.
More than the words they tell you, look at what their body's saying.
All right. So Mr. K says, I haven't created a resume or searched for a career in 30 plus years. LinkedIn didn't exist. How's your program geared towards graybeards like me?
Well, our program has worked towards everybody. I will tell you it'll be easier getting hired if you have gray hair, gray beards, or lack of hair than it is if you're 20 years old. And look, we've got Sig Wolf hired after we trained him he was 63. We got Robert Welch hired at 60. So, and we also got 20-year-old Daniel Bosu hired, which was even more challenging. But the point is you can get it no matter what. Here's the thing. When you have some gray hair, you should have some life experience and you should have some wisdom and you should have some good leadership skills. You should have some good judgment and you should have some maturity. That's a desirable thing. And by comparison, if you're younger, you got to show more energy, enthusiasm, and passion.
All right. Let's see. Here's the always a good one. What if they ask during the interview, what is your salary expectation?
Good question.
Typically, you want to dance around it. So lots of times people ask me, what's your salary expectation? And I say, let's talk about the role. Let's see what you want me to do. Let's see if I'm a good fit for your organization. And then we can talk salary. But without knowing the role and knowing everything, I can't really give you an answer. Just like you can't really give me an answer until you know what I can do for you. Try that. If they force you to after that, then, give them an answer and give them a range that you've already done your reconnaissance and your research, and you know what the average person in the role is doing and know why you could be slightly above or slightly below the average and have a story and a mitigation plan for that.
Here's a good one. Luis says, if transitioning to a new field where you lack experience, are those skills transferable?
Yeah.
I want you to get a guide. That guide right there.
Yeah.
Get the architect job. What if I tell you that it's easier for a doctor or a salesperson to become an architect than it would be an engineer? Because they have more transferable skills. Lewis, you know what I went to school for? Internal medicine. And you know why? It was the perfect training for architecture. Here's what I did in internal medicine. Someone would come in and say, I've got a problem. It was called their chief complaint. Like Alonzo come in and saying, I have a sore throat. Then I would ask some questions about Alonzo's short sword. What makes it better? And he'd say T. What makes it worse? When I yell at you, Mike, I say, don't yell at me. And then what I would do is I would look in his eyes, his ears, nose, throat, feel his lymph nodes, make a diagnosis, and come up with a treatment plan. Guess what? You know what? He was an architect. Alonzo, could you tell me about your business goals, business challenges, and pain points? Alonzo, can I examine your current systems, make a diagnosis, and then come up with a treatment plan? So, doctor, interview a patient. Architect, interview a client. Doctor, examine the patient. Architect, interview the client. Doctor, make a diagnosis. Architect, make a diagnosis. Doctor, make a plan called the prescription. Architect, make a plan called an architecture. It's the same job. They're highly transferable.
Yeah. Experience is experience. And finding the way to relate those experiences to your desired future state is one of the more critical parts of transitioning careers. All right. Let's see. Matt says, I only have a CCNA. Well, you're doing a lot better than a lot of people. But I met a solutions architect and they want to bring me on to mentor me. It's not a done deal yet, but it may very well happen. What should I expect? You're doing a lot better than most people.
You're doing a lot better than most. So some companies have jobs which is called an associate solution architect, and I'm going to tell you what that is. It is a trainee. It is typically a paid trainee. So what will happen is they'll bring you in, and then they'll teach you how to be an architect or a solutions architect. And if you pass the trainee program, you'll get promoted and be a full solutions architect. If not, you'll be terminated. And, we see these all the time. A lot of companies have them. But if they do that, try to learn how to be a sponge. Yeah. They're going to, each day, they're going to try and teach you things. And everything they teach you, when you go home, you go research it and learn more about it. Don't go out there on LinkedIn and talk about your experience. Don't try to create a YouTube channel or Twitter feed. Go out there, and if today they teach you how to sell something, you go home and learn how to sell that night. You practice it. You go in the next day and they teach you a little bit about BGP. Go home and start playing with BGP. Start thinking about AS path prepending versus changing the way versus how you would manipulate it. Go and practice every single day, Matt. And if you get that opportunity, congratulations. It'll be a good one. So go in there with a good attitude. Admit what you don't know and ask questions and learn. And this is an incredible opportunity if you've been given that. Congratulations for the opportunity. If it doesn't work and you want to be an architect, we could train you and get you a great cloud architect job. But if you already got that opportunity, this is great.
All right. So the next one's got 2 comments. I'm going to put them up. Assuming your interview is a remote interview on a Zoom call, not a physical interview where you have to go to the company, and let's say your current job is a remote job where you work from home, how should you appear, corporate or casual, considering you are at home and on a Zoom call? Well, it doesn't
100% of the time.
It matters what you're doing. You're working. You are working. If you're currently working, you should dress for work. If you're interviewing for a job, you should dress for work. If you're at home and you're working, you're working. It doesn't matter that you're at home.
Yep, has nothing to do with it.
If you got a button-up shirt on, or you're got a blouse, make sure you got the pants to go on with it. Also, don't be the people that you see on social media that are halfway dressed and getting caught with their wearing gym shorts on their interview.
No,
or worse. But
Kennechuckle, this is your brand, okay? Yeah. It doesn't. You are exempt. The only person who can be a great ambassador for you is you. So it doesn't matter. Don't ever get too comfortable in your home where you are not providing your mental faculties to always be focused as a professional. So make sure that you're dressing the part, dressing for success. You never know who's going to be on the other end of that call. And how many times I've seen people not dressed well and a higher up or a C-suite person came in on that call to showcase news. And just like Sesame Street, one of these things is not like the others. They got called out for it.
Yeah. So I want to make it clear. The only person who's just about almost dressed for an interview right now on this call is Alonzo.
Oh, yeah.
Interview attire is a suit. Ideally with a tie. And if you're in person, polished shoes and a polished belt, that is the only acceptable interview clothing for a big job.
If you're told to dress a certain way for
unless they tell you otherwise,
you better dress exactly how they tell you, because we know for a fact, Christina, our recruiter guru, I'm not sure what we want. From ITSL has shared her experience where she had a client that she put forth for an interview, and the company said they should dress this way. And she told them to dress this way. They did not dress that way, and they did not get the job.
Yeah.
Because guess what that shows?
They can't follow directions.
Can't follow directions. So
No
if they tell you
attention
to
to
dress
detail.
in a Hawaii shirt and board shorts, dress in a Hawaii shirt and board shorts. It's not a trick. It's not a trap. So,
And GCP folks, it doesn't matter whether people like it or not. It's what's acceptable and what's cultural. And if you want a job that pays $250,000 a year or more, you have to fit into the culture, what's culturally acceptable.
yep. And if that company is culturally acceptable to polos and slacks and paying people $250,000 for polos and slacks, maybe you show up with a button-up shirt on the first interview.
Yep.
And they say, maybe you're a little overdressed. We had Ivan Tamba from our program literally go on an interview. He told this story at our conference last year that he went on the interview and the interviewer said, hold on, let me go get my jacket. You look better than me. Because Ivan Tamba showed up dressed to the nines. And so if they don't have the instructions of how you should dress, you dress your best.
Overdressed and
And
underdressed.
then you follow their lead. If you're not comfortable dressing that way, then maybe it's not that's not where we should be.
And that happened to me once. I was always dressing for success, and no one would dress like dress like I was. And they wouldn't talk to me because they wouldn't trust me. And the funny thing is, why don't you trust me? And they had mentioned, well, a lot of people when we had audits come in, they dressed just like you. So I had to not quote unquote dumb down. I had to definitely significantly reduce my fashion sense to polos, slacks, and so forth. And almost overnight, people started talking to me. So it's all about the culture and deciding on if that's the environment for you.
Yeah. And, on YouTube, I'll wear a golf shirt because YouTube doesn't typically like the Armani suits or Canali suits that are required as an architect. So you got to wear what's required based upon the job and the company. Amazon uses more t-shirts. Microsoft wears a lot more suits. IBM wears suits. You got to look at where you're going to work. Are you working for a company that focuses on business and business transformation? Or are you focusing on a company that's focused on their tech? But I'll tell you one thing. The data is very clear. 55% of all communication is what you look like when you say something. 38% is what you sound like when you say something. And 7% is actually what you say. So when it comes to promotions, who do you think is going to get it? The one that feels like a better executive or the one that feels like a more techie? There's about $200,000 between the top and bottom paid person for these roles. Difference. I want you to get the $200,000 extra.
Okay. All right. So our next one is another two-parter. Hello, team. I have a question. I have cleared 2 rounds of interviews in the role of infrastructure architect. First was an introduction, and second was technical. Third one is scheduled, and the agenda is a video call with the team. What kind of questions can I expect?
Misha, that's going to depend upon the company. Typically, the last thing for an architect interview is going to be a presentation to a wide variety of people.
We don't know if this is the last one.
But,
this is just
we don't know if this is the last one.
Right.
And we don't know who the people are that are going to ask you. And we don't know the company's business that they're in. So that's going to be the determination.
Yeah.
Are they a cloud provider? That's going to be one thing. Are they a telecom cloud provider? Or are they a strategy consulting firm? And what is it, their special things that they do, which may be better or worse? What's that company's value proposition? I would try to figure those things out before the next one.
Would you hire me if all my titles are software engineer with a lot of system design plus impact on CapEx and OpEx? How do you present it?
Yeah. How do you present it?
Mm-hmm.
So, what do you mean impact on CapEx and OpEx? If you're just taking things that are CapEx and translating them to OpEx, that may be the worst thing in the world, or it could be the best thing in the world.
Yeah.
When should an organization's capital structure use CapEx versus OpEx? What are the strengths and weaknesses there?
And is that going to be a part of your role?
Yeah.
So
what's the organization's weighted average cost of capital? And you have to understand that, but just not from going from impact to CapEx to OpEx. What has been the result of your work? Has it been to optimize, increase sales? Has it been to reduce operational expenditures? These things kind of matter. What's your ability to sell? What's your ability to lead? What's your ability to relate to others? That determines whether I hire you or not. I don't care what your background was. I don't care if you were a dog walker or an airplane pilot, a physician, an attorney, or a software engineer. I care about, can you be an architect? And what can you do as an architect when I hire architects? I have nothing concern what you've done in your past life.
All right. So James says, as an architect in the process of building a team, how does it work in the real world? Will HR give you the engineers? Nope.
Nope.
Subject matter experts you need, or a project manager will be the one to do this for you? Nope. And
nope, you're gonna
maybe on the second.
No, you're gonna have to develop on your sales skills. So let's say Alonzo is my manager. I like to promote my team to be my manager periodically on these things. So Alonzo is now my manager. I now go on an opportunity for $1 billion opportunity. But I'm going to need a network architect, an IAM architect, 2 AI architects, 3 DevOps engineers, 2 data scientists, a project manager, 10 cloud engineers, 5 software engineers. Now I got to go convince the company why I need them. So now I need to build a little mini business case, James, to show the value and the opportunity for the customer. Then I need to go to my manager, potentially the VP of sales, potentially the VP of engineering, potentially the VP of architecture, potentially even the CEO. And I need to create a justification, a financial justification, why I might need $10 to $20 million of people for the next of the year. Now I've got to go build a team. I've got to go form that team. I get to harmonize that team and get them working. I got to sell those team of people that don't work for me. I got to find out their goals and get them to their goals, and I got to manage those people intelligently. And then we may have an RFP, and I might need to bring on a project manager so they can be the task manager. Alonzo, did I get your sections? Chris, did I get your sections? And I got to lead that. So it's all about you, James. It's all about your leadership skills. It's all about your sales skills. It's all about your executive presence and your ability to manage stakeholders. That's why I don't care if you can code or configure technology, because it's not our job, but these are critical architect skills. And no, you don't get people from HR. You got to go sell the management on why they got to give you their people. And then you're going to have to share credit and share revenue and do all kinds of things. So there was a great movie called Jerry Maguire. Show me the money is what his client said. You got to show those people the company that you can show them the money, and that's why you're going to take their people.
All right. So back to that negotiation talking point that we were talking about. So can I tell them, quote, well, based on the national pay grade, $16 is below average for the state of Florida. With inflation, that is not enough to survive. When you can do better, please get back to me. No, that is not something that you should say. So there's a couple of things to think about here. When we're talking about you negotiating for your job, you're negotiating for the compensation for that role, not for where you live.
Yep.
Not for where not for where the job is located. All of these are choices. All of these are personal choices. All of these personal choices are impacted by things that are not easy decisions. Like it's not an easy choice of where to live or where to what neighborhood to move into or anything of that nature. But they are, at the end of the day, choices. So, and the jobs that you're applying for, at the end of the day, these are all choice-based. So the way that you're negotiating is based off of the roles that you're choosing to attain. And so that's what your negotiation, if any, should be based on the role, the expectations of the role, and the data that is supportive of or unsupportive of what they offer you for that role. Now, if the data supports that the average XYZ role in ABC city earns $20 an hour, That's your point.
Yeah.
That's what the industry pays. That's what that's what the market prevails. That's what the market holds. And same, we're talking about hourly rates here, but if we're talking about a cloud architect role, we're talking about salaries. So we're talking bottom end 140, 150, top end base salary is your only limit. The compensate, the bonus on top of that is, in some places, Google unlimited. Apparently, their salary sheet was leaked last year. So as we saw there, their bonus potential for some of their architect roles were unlimited. Which I'm sure they're probably going to fix that now. But no. So you negotiate, and your reasoning for negotiation is based off of the role and the data for the role, not the data for the environment or anything of that nature. And if somebody offers you below, you just say no, thank you.
And we have to look at the actual economics and finance of the business. What you want is irrelevant and nobody cares. If you want $30 an hour, but the company loses money by paying you $30 an hour, they can't hire you. So the question merely becomes is what can you do for the company and what is that worth? That's your selling point. I got 2 network engineers. One of them knows how to do basic things. The other one knows how to do the same things, build a team, bring out the best in the team, and convince other people to do more work. I might pay the second one double or triple the first one because they can do more for the company. So it's not about what you want. It's not about the national averages. It's what the value you bring to them. I got a sales rep that can sell $1 billion a year and a sales rep that can sell $1 million a year. I'm going to pay the sales rep that can do $1 billion 10 times more than the one that can do $1 billion because they're worth more to me. I hope that makes sense.
All right. Is it advisable to stand or sit while taking an interview?
Well, let's talk about it. If it's remote, it's up to you. And if it's remote on Zoom, you got to show where you look the best. If it's in person, it's going to be seated because they're going to ask you to sit down until it's time to deliver a presentation. And then you're probably going to stand and deliver your presentation.
Personally, I think people look better virtually when they're standing.
They do,
because
typically.
it makes them more open. It makes them more when you're sitting, unless you're like Mike and you're purposely stoic all the time, you're very you fall into those natural things that Alonzo was referencing earlier about slouching a little bit. Like me right now, I'm slouching. I tell people in our classes that their presentations are better when they're standing.
Don't limit your dynamics to a box. Okay. So let them see everything that you're doing so that it exemplifies your direction, your leadership, your competency, your energy. So like Mike said, standing during a presentation, that will give you a whole lot of leeway about how much energy you're showcasing, value in a particular area of that whiteboard and so forth. But on the negative side is when you're standing, you're not at attention, you're not being interrogated. So standing while everyone is sitting is going to create an air of discomfort. So you want to control that environment in all its shapes and forms, especially in your positioning with standing or sitting.
Yeah, and there's something. So like if we're talking about an in-person interview, sitting is the thing. But when you're sitting in person, it's completely different than when you're sitting at your computer. The natural tendency when you're sitting at your computer is to slouch. When Mike's not on camera, he's slouching at the computer. I've seen him. I know it. I watched him. Our natural tendency when you're at the computer. So most people's natural tendency, if they're in a virtual thing, is to slouch, even if it's just a little bit. So that's why I like the standing in a virtual interview, not in an in-person one, but in a virtual one. Standing gets you that you're aware, you know what's going on, you're fully invested. Just like when you're in person, even though you're sitting in person, you're in person. You know they see everything that you're doing in person. So that's why I really like. And if you're in our program, go watch the How to Explain the Tech classes.
Yeah.
And you'll see where I point out somebody was standing versus somebody was sitting. I can tell that the person that was standing, that you were doing good. Your energy was high. You're off the charts, which is what you want, especially in an interview, because like Alonzo said, you're in a box in a virtual interview. So you need every trick, so to speak, to make yourself stand out when you're stuck in that box. So we're getting close to our time here, and I know Mike's got a meeting after this. So let's see if we can get through some of these. So this one, what if you're in a beard gang like myself? When I look unserious in front of the recruiter. So it's all about the kemptness.
Yes.
So if we're talking, I saw a comment earlier about hair, and I'm trying to get through these questions as quickly as possible since we're living. If we got curly hair, or we got frizzy hair, or we got beards, or anything like that, it's all about keeping it kempt.
Yep.
You know, don't straighten your hair if your hair is curly. Like, just make sure it's kempt. If you got a beard, make sure your beard's trimmed. Don't go in there with the stragglies during your interview. Make sure it's trimmed. Even if you got the ZZ Top beard, make sure it's trimmed. You didn't see them going around without unkempt beards. They were long, but they were kempt. They were clean. They were sharp. Sharp dressed man don't have straggly beards. They got kempt long beards.
Great song.
So that's my 2 cents on that. Anything else that you?
No, I agree. It's all about, is it clean and is it respectable?
Yeah.
You got to be yourself. If you've got curly hair, great. Celebrate your curly hair. Why not? It's wonderful. If you've got straight hair, be yourself. Just keep it clean. So don't let for me, I used to have very curly, very thick hair, and it would go to all kinds of crazy directions when it got too long. So I'd keep it short. Now I don't have a lot of hair because of life, and that's fine too. It comes with the age and wisdom. And I still keep it short because if it's not too short, then it goes off in all kinds of weird directions and doesn't look right either. So just work with what you got, but be yourself. That's the key. Be yourself.
And ask yourself, would you do business with you looking like that? That's just an honest assessment. And if you say no, then make changes. If you say yes, then okay, you're good to go. But also ask people that are professional and you can trust with your overall appearance. How would they handle your appearance? And just pivot accordingly.
Yeah. And that's circling back to something that Alonzo said earlier that I had a thought process. Alonzo said, dress the part. If you can't get the $5,000 suit, don't get the $5,000 suit.
Yeah.
If you got get the JCPenney suit, get the Nordstrom suit. If you need to, get the church suit, get the suit from the church on the corner. Like they're
absolutely
there. Everything is there. The important part is, how do you wear that suit?
Yeah.
Is it wrinkled or is it pressed? Is it steamed? Is it ironed? Is it straight? Just like your facial hair, just like your hair, it's the kemptness, because they'll pick up, the interviewer will say, this person's not keeping their beard clean. Their shirt's wrinkled. Their dress is not appropriate. Are they going to represent our company well? But if you go in there with a well-trimmed beard, nice, 4 inches long, whatever it might be, and it looks great. It looks great. There's a student in our program that is, for 6 months, I would be like, so you're like what, 24, 25? And they're like, he says, no, I'm 30. I've told you this. I've told you this multiple times. I'm 30. He comes to a class a month ago, and he's got a beard, and he's got some grays in his beard, and I'm like, wow, you look distinguished. You look like he had a full-grown beard, but it had some gray in it, and so that worked to his advantage.
It did.
I'm like, okay, now I know you're 30. I can see that, I can see it in you now. So there's a lot of reasons. Like beards can work to your advantage in some situations. It's working to that individual's advantage, because my assumption was that they were 24-year-olds. So we all know that immediately there's a lot of assumptions that come along with me thinking they're 24. No experience, unruly, not going to listen, not going to follow directions, just all those things that us crabby old people think about, young people. But as soon as I saw him with that beard, and other people in the class said it too. They like it changed the perception of him. So I wanted to throw that out there. GCP folks. So we got two last questions. We're going to round them out and then let Mike go. Do I need to complete TOGAF to become an enterprise cloud architect?
Absolutely not. I know plenty of architects that have 0 certifications. All TOGAF does is if you already have all the skills to be an enterprise architect, it gives you an order of what to do. So that's all it is. It's a framework. The DoD has their own framework. The federal government has their own framework. Most consulting companies have their own framework. I happen to like the TOGAF because a lot of companies to use it and we're a member organization, but you need to be able to know how to design, optimize the people, processes, and technology for a business to improve their business performance.
All right. And then we've got about salary. What if a recruiter asks you, what is the rate expectation for this role? What can your response be? First of all, is this an internal recruiter for a company?
Yes.
It's a third party external recruiter. You're going to answer it 2 different ways based on who it is. If it's internal, you play it coy.
Yeah.
If it's an external recruiter, you're completely honest with that external third party recruiter because they're there to help you primarily.
Mm-hmm.
Mike?
Yeah, absolutely. External recruiter, they're getting paid to find you a job. You can be more honest with them. Internal recruiter, wait till they determine what things are done. Don't pigeonhole yourself and kick yourself out of the job before you even had an opportunity to talk about it.
Yeah. And we're not saying lie. We're saying keep it to yourself. Play it close to the chest. It's poker. Now, I want to invite everybody to our Q&A tomorrow, every Wednesday at 2 o'clock. Well, not every Wednesday. 99% of the Wednesdays, we have a Q&A at 2 o'clock on Wednesday, right here on YouTube, our LinkedIn, our Facebook, where you can come and ask us any and all of your questions that you have. As much as we'd love to continue answering questions now, we do have to go. But I would really like to invite you to come back tomorrow. Come back tomorrow.
Absolutely. And I just want to make sure something that GCP folks said. If you complete a long list of certifications to become an enterprise architect, I promise you, you won't be working as an enterprise architect. When we're hiring an enterprise architect, we're looking for a business executive that knows technology. In my first enterprise architecture role, that was a big one, I was asked by my manager to remove the certifications from my resume and my business cards because they didn't want the impression of a techie. They wanted an impression of an executive. So if you get 30 or 40 certifications to be an enterprise architect, please remove them from your resume and your LinkedIn profile because they will show you as a techie, which is not what companies want when they want an enterprise architect. They want an executive. Now, if you had an MBA, that would look good. Not that you don't need an MBA, but please don't get a lot of certifications to be an enterprise architect. I can give you examples of people we've had to remove them to get them hired for better jobs.
All right, Mike, wrap up our show about interviews.
So tomorrow, come back. We'll answer questions about salary differences because I see it was a question. Architects earn more, but we'll explain to you why as a general rule. But the key to the interview is to remember it is a sales call. You are showing the hiring manager how you can do the job and why they need to have you on their team. It is not just about cloud architect interview questions or solution architect interview questions. It's about showing them the impact that you can make on their business. What can you do to the team's performance? What can you do to be likable? What can you do to show them all these great things? So I recommend you download that completely free guide on how to win the interview. I recommend you think about how you can better position yourself. I want you to dig deep and find out what makes you special. I want you to show others why you're special and what you can do for them. I want you to be so irresistible to the employer that they'll pay you more than you can actually imagine. And there's a lot of wiggle room, and it comes down to how desirable you are to the employer. I want you to master the skills for your career, and I want you to get the job of your dreams. So tomorrow, 2 p.m., We'll answer any kind of questions you have about building your career. I love doing it. On Thursday, we'll have a How to Become a Cloud Architect webinar. And guess what? It'll be on Zoom. We can go questions back and forth. If you want us to assess you, we can do it. Anything we can do, and it's free to get you hired. And we're going to have a fun AWS Advanced Networking Bootcamp. And, you know, truth be told, it's a relatively easy certification, but most people have a hard time with it. They have a hard time with it because the people that are teaching it are not networking people. So what they hear is blah, 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 blah. And as Einstein says, if you can't explain it simply, you don't know it well enough. So we have 2 Cisco certified internet experts. We have Benedict, who is a great network engineer from Nigeria, who's now living in Canada, working as a network engineer. The team will have over 50 years networking experience. And guess what? We'll try to make it so you can learn so much, and we'll go do it for free because, you know, we really try to help you guys with the technical things out there that we can do. And our special sauce is going from technical to hired. That's what we do as a company. So, of course, we teach the tech too. But join us tomorrow. Join us on Thursday for the free boot, and then join us for the free boot camp. We can't wait to see you there. Have a wonderful time, everybody, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks for joining us, everyone.
All right. Bye, everybody.